this talk, I want to talk more about, start a discussion, really an interaction, to get your ideas on if you really believe that there's a better path, that there's a better way that we can help people lose weight. I think that it's obvious that what we're doing right now isn't working. I think this year we had, 2 or 3 different sets of guidelines come out.
Where's that actually?
I can't keep track. Yeah, 6. And really, they were so much different. I think, we had guidelines come out in 1998, and, here we are 15 years later, and there really wasn't much different. So obviously, kind of what we're doing isn't working, and should we continue down that path, or should we perhaps think about, is there something better? Is there something, bigger, or a different way of doing things? So the question I want to ask this group to kind of get started is, which cup or which half do you sit in? And there's not a right or wrong. The idea is there a better way to kind of help people lose weight? What will it take to make more people successful? What are we missing? Do you believe that there is something missing? Do you believe that there is a better way? Or, is it too late? Is it too hard? Is biology too strong? I think Dan just gave a talk on biology. Should in that case, maybe we wait on a drug or a couple drugs, because it sounds like it's going to take more than one drug to probably be able to move the needle. Or do we wait on surgery? Or maybe we just accept your weight where it is and just treat all the comorbidities. That's one possibility. So I think, you kind of either sit in one of these camps. You kind of sit in this, there's nothing we can do about it, let's make the best of it until something, big like surgery or medication maybe solves the problem for us. Or do we really try to get creative and say, can we push back enough to make a difference? So I was going to make you raise your hand and make you declare, because that's what you would do. If you were interviewing me, you wouldn't let me sit in the middle, would you? You'd say, Holly, and you'd quote me, right, on whichever one that I picked. So, but in general, I guess, before I kind of get going, what does this audience feel like? Why don't you turn the lights? I think we can just keep the lights on for my slides. I feel like we're in the dark and it doesn't help.
I believe that for some people, the first option is relevant, and I believe for other people, the second option is relevant. And that's because in order to adopt the first stance, you need access to the kinds of resources, the kind of ability to navigate the healthcare system, to be able to read labels, to be able to educate ourselves, that most people, quite frankly, don't have.
So you believe without a lot of help, it's impossible to do?
Or education, or both.
Okay. Anybody else?
I think there's got to be a reason why you'd want to. Because it takes a lot of effort, obviously.
Mm-hmm. And maybe that's a piece of the key.
And so
understanding why you really want to, or why you should want to, or how to change something so that becomes something that's really motivating you. I would say it's got to be bigger than weight loss. Weight loss alone isn't it. And I think that's what we've been trying to kind of get at. Just the weight loss piece. And I think just the weight loss piece by itself doesn't work. And, I'll kind of give you my experience over the last couple of years. I think has really kind of led me down a different path. I really think that we can move the needle. I definitely believe that we can make people change. I think we have to look at it a little bit differently than we've been looking at it. And that it's bigger than just their weight. And we have to kind of look at it as a big change for our society, almost a transformation for our society. And that's a big thing. It's not a small change. It's a big change. But I absolutely, after this year, and what I've witnessed this year, both in terms of Stay to Slim and some of the things that have come out of Stay to Slim and extreme weight loss, I believe we absolutely can move the needle. And I believe that transformation is really the key to success. So what I'm going to do, let me figure out where I'm going to stand to kind of make all this happen. So I want to spend a couple minutes talking about Stay to Slim, what happened over the last couple years, of why I've kind of changed my mind or kind of changed my path and what I'm pursuing in terms of my research, in terms of the programs that I'm developing here. I was very much going in kind of one direction and really have turned back the other direction. Now I want to talk a little bit about that, what makes the Stay to Slim different from other programs, which kind of gets at the same thing. And then really talk about the role of purpose and mindset, because I think that's the key thing, or one of the key things that's missing. And then, because we do have a little bit longer time, we were really fortunate to be able to get a real life transformation, one of the really large, big transformations in terms of the amount of weight loss, but also I think you're going to see in terms of a change in mindset and understanding purpose with Trita. So I'm going to have her tell her story at the end, but this is going to be a discussion, Trita, so if you want to chime in at any point because you have some insight, you're going to chime in. So about these things, then I think it would be great because she kind of represents a real life transformation that's done that, who's doing what we're trying to help other people do. Okay, so what is the State of Slim? Just quickly, it's a blueprint, it's a big change, it's a national movement to change the way we live, and really it is transformative weight loss, which is, I think, the direction that we need to go if we really want to move the needle. I was in Dallas-Fort Worth this weekend on a layover, and I just sat in the airport and just watched people walk by and just started counting how many people were obese, or guessing that we're obese. And I just really started to realize we're not winning. I mean, maybe we're holding it steady. I don't know. We can talk about the stats. You probably know the stats, but I don't think we're winning. And actually now it's almost like you don't even see it. You only see the severely obese individuals. The obese individuals just blend in. And so that's kind of where I think we're sitting today, and that's why I think we do need a big national movement to try to change that. So I've talked before for this group, and you kind of know where I've been over the last 15 years. I've been researching treating obesity. I battled it myself, really been studying a lot from the National Weight Control Registry, which I think is a great group of folks to study. And I spent probably the first half of my career, I would say, learning what to do. And I thought, and I really did think this, that if somehow or another we figured out exactly what people should do, it would move the needle. I mean, I didn't think it would necessarily make everybody successful, but I really did think it would move the needle. So came up with exactly what they eat. We came up with the idea that weight loss and weight loss maintenance were different because we learned that from the registry, how many minutes of activity, when they do it. We came up with a lot of things. And we put that in a program. Our first program was called Colorado Way. And it really was based off the learnings from the National Weight Control Registries, the learnings from the DPP, and we put it into a program, and it was a good program. But guess what? Just knowing what to do doesn't really do it. I can tell people what to do, and they don't really necessarily do it. So that really wasn't enough. And in my last NIH grant that I put in, it was along those same lines, really looking at intensity of activity. And the reviews that came back from the NIH said, this is great, where your environment's good, your plan is solid, your research is great, but does it matter if people won't do it? Do we really need to understand the right intensity of activity when we can't get people to do any activity, period? And I kind of went, wow, I can be a great scientist, but we're not even going to study that. So that really moved me to start talking about the why and the how. That's really where this kind of came from is, yes, you got to know what to do, and that's important. You got to have the right what, but you really got to know why and how you're doing it, I think, to be successful. And along the same lines, Jim and I were always getting questions from journalists about why Colorado is the leanest state. And I always tell the story that I kind of didn't really want to answer that. I said, just come to my clinic. We still have plenty of obesity here. It's not a big deal. But they kept on, and finally Jim and I said, you know what, maybe we should study it. They're not going to go away. Y'all didn't go away. Y'all still want it. It's a great story. Y'all like to write about it. You wore us down, but it was a good thing. It wore us down, and so Jim and I did say, well, let's do some studies. Let's think about this. What's going on? And what we really found out was kind of amazing, in that Colorado really ended up being the sweet spot where the what, which we had learned a lot from the National Weight Control Registry, and the why and the how came together in a real-life scenario. So the things that people were doing in Colorado were very similar to the National Weight Control Registry. And in Colorado, you got to see the why and the how they were doing it. It's not that everybody is lean in Colorado, it's just that a higher percentage are. So Colorado kind of created almost a lab to really understand how large groups of people could actually be more successful. And that's really how State of Slim came to be. So this was kind of the pathway that led us to the State of Slim. And the things we learned from the National Weight Control Registry, and y'all know this, many diets work for weight loss. There isn't a single diet. Weight loss maintenance is hard. There's a difference between losing weight and maintaining weight. They involve different skills. We know that physical activity is really important for the maintenance. You got to have that. There's something critical about that in terms of your metabolism. But we also learned, I think, the importance of a life transformation and the fact that it needs to be bigger than just weight loss. And the people in the registry that were successful, and I don't think I quite got it at the time until I saw what was happening in Colorado, were the ones that hooked it to things that were more important to them, made it bigger than just their weight loss, changed their whole life and the whole way they look at their life to transform themselves. And that's the type of thing that I think works long-term for people. So I'm going to go ahead and skip this because we kind of... So what is different about this Stay to Slim? A couple things. It begins with the end in mind. And this is not necessarily what people want, but it's kind of what they need, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. But from the very beginning with the Stay to Slim, we're trying to get people both physically and mentally and their life in a situation that they're most likely to be able to maintain their weight once they lost it. And that's very different than the typical diet. The typical diet is just kind of consumed with getting the weight off and not doing a lot of work about what you do to keep it off. It matches diet with activity. It optimizes your metabolism. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But the big thing, and the thing that I think is key, is that it works both on the body and the mind. And the mind, I think, is the piece that's really classically been avoided or not included when we talk about weight loss. And it gives you the what, which absolutely you have to have the what, so you can't not do it without a decent plan and what. But more importantly, it puts the why and the how in there. And it makes it easier for you to sustain it by helping you develop your environment and your routines to support your new lifestyle. And then one of the kind of amazing things that we didn't even predict, or I don't think, I'll ask Jim if he predicted it, is the way that it spreads. And that's something about transformation. There's something about when you transform your life, you spread it to others. And it's not something I wish I could say I knew I was writing that, and I knew when I wrote the book that that's what would happen, but I didn't. But that's really what is happening. And it's amazing how when that happens, you can tell because it naturally spreads to others. And so, Jim, what did you, I know you've been asked this question before because of how the book kind of is spreading, but did you think that Stay to Slim would spread when we first wrote it?
I wish I could say yes, but I have to agree with you. I didn't anticipate it.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the keys of transformation is that it does kind of spread. And then came extreme weight loss. So we worked on Stay to Slim, and we started doing programs with Stay to Slim, and I started seeing kind of the transformation. And then I had the privilege really to work with the extreme weight loss participants and to see how an extreme transformation can make changes. And I think the two things together really changed my idea on how we need to move forward, and the fact that we absolutely need to be thinking of this in terms of transformation and changing people's mindset and changing the way people think of themselves and think of the situation. It's not just about eating differently and moving more. It's got to be a lot bigger than that. So, what people want. So I was going to ask the question here, what do you think people want? When people come into my clinic or talk about wanting to lose weight, what do you think they want you to say or want me to say or want you to give them, so to speak?
It'll be easy.
Easy?
The answer. Fast.
Answer the fast. Right?
Whether it will really work.
Mm-hmm. They want something that will work.
Whether the effort's worth the work, I guess.
Effort's worth the work. You know, one thing they want weight loss. I always say when I talk about they want it to work. I mean, y'all are saying the right thing. When I say I'm going to give a weight loss talk, or we're going to give away we're going to do a weight loss program, and we're going to make it free to the public, etc. This is what I get. I would say full. They're standing outside in my car, telling me why they absolutely have to have it. That it's life, life saving for them. That they absolutely, this is critical for them to get into this program. And then I say, this is what I get when I talk about weight loss maintenance, right? What it's going to take, not to lose it, but what it's going to take long term to maintain it. No one comes. I would say crickets, nothing. you know? But this is what they need, right? But that's not what they want, so they don't show up. So I think we have kind of this issue when we talk about what we're going to do to help the public or society change is, do we give them what they want? Do we give them what they need, but they won't come? How do you deal with that? What do we do?
You change what they want.
You can try that. Change what they want. We haven't been very successful at that.
Make them commit to the maintenance if they're going to do the weight loss.
You can try that, make them commit. We've tried the change their mind piece. We tried really, really hard. And Jim's pretty good at it, but he can't really do it. They won't sign up. I always say to the marketing people, never use the word weight loss maintenance in anything you write if you want it to be successful. You know, I would say weight loss is like sexy and it's fun and things are changing and people are walking up to you and going, oh my gosh, you look great. What are you doing? And you know, you're happy and all this kind of stuff. And then weight loss maintenance is like paint drawing, right? Nothing changes. No one comes up to you and says, you look exactly the same as you did, 3 months ago. 6 months ago. Congratulations. No, you don't get any reinforcement for it, right? It's a harder thing, but no, you want it, they don't want it. And that's the key why you cannot market something as weight loss maintenance. You can try to get them to switch, but we haven't had that much success, and that's what we did, right? Our research was really, Jim and I, our research was really not on weight loss. It's really on weight loss maintenance and national weight control strategy. That's what was our bread and butter. If we couldn't get them to change or to think or convince them, I don't know who could, because that that's what all we did. So the idea is you gotta give them what they want, but sneak in what they need, and that's what State of Slim is. And I'll admit to it. It's like grating carrots in your child's food in hopes to get him to eat vegetables and never mentioning that you did it. Or putting the spinach in your spouse's smoothie, and when it's green, you go, I have no idea why it's green. Don't know it. It's the same premise. So you've got to give them a program that produces weight loss, but you also got to give them what they need or sneak in what they need at the same time, which is weight loss maintenance. The other piece of this is what they really want is small change, quick, easy. Unfortunately, what they are going to need is lifestyle transformation, big change. Small changes, I think, will work sometimes to prevent weight gain. But if you want to lose a significant amount of weight, and that's what most people do, most people are not happy with 5 to 10%, even though we know medically, absolutely, 5 to 10% produces benefits. Try to convince patients of that. Once again, it's what they need, but it's not what they want. And you won't get them to play very long if you don't give them what they want. So what they want are big weight losses. And so we have to kind of give them that, and that involves not small changes. It really involves a lifestyle transformation. But up front, you can't tell them that either. So right now, when I have people coming into our Stay Slim groups, this is what they really taught me. They come in because they want to lose weight, and they start losing weight. And we keep them losing weight, but we really teach them lifestyle transformation. We really teach them transforming their lives, their mindset, the mental side of things. Very little of it is on what they're eating. We're also trying to get their activity up because we know that's important, so we are working on that. But by the end, when I talk to them, they realize that this has been so much bigger than just losing weight. They get it, but they would have never signed up for it, right? They would have never started the process. But once you get them going down that road of transformation, and once they see the potential, then they're hooked. And then they want to spread it to everybody. So I guess the reason I'm trying to tell you this in this kind of detail is I really could use your help. I'm not sure how you communicate this to the public, because it is a little bit of a hiding match, right? What they want and what they need. But I'm really convinced it is the solution. I've seen such huge weight losses, way bigger than I've ever gotten before with Stay Slim. And it's because of that mindset, it's because of that transformation, and the way they end the program and what they go out and do with it is huge. Mm-hmm.
Can you say a little bit about exactly what this transformation is? It sounds a little abstract.
Yeah,
You
it's
have
hard.
to change your What are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, I think it's really transforming everything. And that's why it's big. It's transforming their body by changing what they're eating and what they're doing, exercise, and that's we're used to that to some degree. But also it's transforming their mind, how they approach things. For example, one of the things is most people come in very much kind of in a victim role. Life happens to them. It's their genes. It's that this happened to them when they were a child. It's that they don't have any time. It's that they don't have any money. That all these things have added up, have produced this body weight, that they're a victim to it, that they don't have control over it. One thing we work on changing, and it's amazing when you see it, is the empowerment. That, yes, I can make a change, and I get to. It's not so much what I don't get to do anymore, it's absolutely what I get to do. It's not that I can't eat chicken wings and drink beer at the football games. It's now what I get to do and how much better that is and how much better I feel. And so it's a mindset, kind of mind transformation in terms of moving from the victim to the more empowered. And when you do that, it's amazing what happens. And it's amazing how barriers melt away. So, Tarita, I know that you had some of that. So maybe, actually, you know what? I want to wait to the end. Why don't you tell them a little bit about your story. Tell them how much weight you lost, and you can stand up here. All right. So this is the old Tarita when I first met her, and this is Tarita 1 year later.
Congratulations.
Well, thanks so much, Dr. Holly, for having me here. I'm so excited.
I'm excited you came. We didn't know for sure she was going to be able to make it, so this is a really big deal for her to be here today.
Okay, well, so I started at 310 pounds, and at the end of the year, I ended at 160. I lost 150 pounds. And starting with the end in mind, I did not see that taking place. I absolutely felt like I'm going to get this transformation down. I'm going to learn what I need to change my life, and I'm going to have transformation. And for me, that was the big thing, was transformation. I want to change my circumstance. I don't want to be a victim anymore. I want to put my foot forward, not feel like someone's dragging me forward. And I had no way in my mind thinking how I would go about that. But what I learned along the way is that transformation awaits those who want it. And I knew I wanted it, but I didn't know how bad I wanted it. And I learned that along the way. And what it starts with is just taking a step. I reached out and asked for help. I had to be vulnerable. And I was a victim. I felt like I made some bad choices when I was younger, and these circumstances took place, and it caused me to be this anxious, depressed wife, mother, and not at all the person that I thought I would be at this point in my life. And so transformation was waiting all along. I just didn't know how to reach it. And so I reached out. That was the first step. It was just reaching out, becoming vulnerable, and asking for help. It's really a mindset. I came into this thinking...
Would you say it's more about the diet and the physical activity, or would you really say it's more about your mind?
It's really more about your mind, because I still struggle with the eating. There's still days where I'm like, oh, I want some chicken wings, or, those cultural foods that I grew up eating and that I cook. I still struggle with that, but it is a mindset. And what it comes down to is, what's more important? What's more important? What's my why? Was it important for me to be 310 pounds? No. And that's why I was anxious and depressed. Is it important for me to be 160 and maintain a healthy lifestyle and be the mom I always wanted to be, and the wife and the daughter and the sister and the friend and everything else that we all want to be? Absolutely. It really, really is, because it's changed my life. And life is better than I even imagined it could be after 150 pound weight loss. And so I get up every morning and it's like, okay, I could just go have a bowl of Frosted Flakes, eat my kids a cereal on the weekend or something, or I could get up and stick to my plan. And it is still a choice. It is still a conscious choice. I'm learning maintenance. It's not over. I didn't lose 150 pounds and arrive. I'm still learning. And if I ever get to the point where I feel like I've arrived, then I think I missed it, because my body's always changing and my mindset changed. I have to put it in check daily, sometimes hourly. That's real. That's real life. It's not easy. It was hard, but it was so worth it, and it was completely rewarding. And like Dr. Holly said, this maintenance part, people don't come up and say, oh my gosh, 3 months later, you look amazing. You still look the same as your finale. Nothing's changed. No, but I do have the support and the accountability, and they say, hey, still looking good. What are you doing? How's your workouts going? What you been thinking? What are you dealing
Why
with?
do you think you make the difference? You talk about getting up in the morning and choosing a different path to go down. Why do you think you make a different choice this morning? Versus the path.
Sure.
In the past.
Well, quite honestly, with extreme weight loss, a lot of it was focused on losing weight and working out a minimum of 4 hours a day. And I didn't really take the time necessary to process what was going on up here and what was going on in here. And so towards the end of transformation, as far as extreme weight loss is concerned, is when you really take time to figure out, what are my triggers? How did I get to this point? How did I allow myself to get to this weight? And how do I have long-lasting change? How do I change my mindset? So when I have to get up every morning and make a choice and choose differently, I've been living a certain way for years. Now, I'm 33 years old, but I feel like I lived a long life. I lived a certain way for 15 years, certain mindsets, certain choices, certain eating habits. And it just doesn't go away just because I worked out 4 hours a day for a whole year and I lost 150 pounds. It doesn't go away. This is still the same. This is what I have to continue to work on for the change.
Can you sort of walk us through, with some specificity, sort of what you did? You said you reached out, you were vulnerable. Does that mean how did you do that? And then what happened next?
Well, as far as extreme weight loss is concerned, I wrote the letter to Chris Powell. But prior to that, my parents were pretty concerned, and they didn't want to hurt my feelings, but they had been kind of hinting some things. And I knew it for a long time, and I finally just said, okay, I have no idea how big I am, but I'm tired, I'm heavy, I'm overweight, I can't play with my sons. I'm not involved, and I need help. I don't know what to do, and I don't know where to go from here, but I know that I need change. And that was basically how it started.
When you talk about, excuse me, how you still, struggle to avoid some of the foods that you grew up with, do you treat yourself? Like maybe one time I'll have some of this, and that'll be my treat for a month. And do you, or do you just completely get it out of your system? And I also wanted to get your opinion, doctor, about that of should people do that? I mean, instead of completely doing away with it, say, all right, well, it's Friday, I'm going to have this, and that'll be the bad quote unquote thing I'll have for just a month, and then I'll go back to being healthy and stuff. So I wanted to get your take on that.
Well, in the beginning, when we started our carb cycling program here at boot camp, we had Sunday Fun Day. And that was our cheat day. And it started out that we were supposed to have a reward meal. Well, we were still very much food addicts, and I still am. But I didn't understand the reasoning for rewarding myself after a long week of clean eating and exercise. All I thought was, good, I did my part, now I can get back to what I want to eat. And that was my mindset. And so I went completely way overboard. It's taken this entire year to learn how to tailor that to an actual cheat meal. And now that I'm in maintenance, I don't have to confine myself to just Sunday Fun Day. So 2 times a week, I will have a little treat. Whether that means if I want to get up and have a bowl of Apple Jacks, then that's my treat for the day. If I want to wait till Sunday, but I've given myself 2 days out of the week, and I'll have one fun reward. And now the mindset is that next week will be here, and the next week will be here, and the next week will be here. So just pick and choose what I want it to be. It's not the end of the world. I tried putting off not having it and just try to get it completely out of my system. But then the day when I went back to it, it was like crack. Like I couldn't control myself. And I just started like binging and going crazy. And so that for me is not going to work. Just learning how to reward myself and staying consistent with the healthy eating and the exercise. I feel like I've earned it. So it's not like a cheat, it's a reward.
And so I actually think in State of Slim we call it indulgence, not cheat. We call it indulgence meal, but it's the same thing. I think during weight loss, it's important. I think it changes. What you do during weight loss, I think, is very different than what you do during weight loss maintenance. That's what you kind of hear her saying. She figured it out kind of on her own by some trial and error, but in reality it is different. And so during weight loss, we usually have people have at least one indulgence a week, sometimes two, depending on the phase of the weight loss they're in. And I do think it's important to the mindset. I think what happens if you never allow yourself to have something that you want, you tend to go down this path of poor me. The victim mentality comes back out. I never get to have anything good. I never get to have pizza. It's not fair. It's once again more victim instead of more empowered. So we teach one indulgence meal a week, and the keys to an indulgence meal are to have exactly what you want. So if you want enchiladas with cheese and margarita, if that's what you've been thinking about all week, then you have that. You don't go, well, I really want that, but I'm going to have the salad with a little salad dressing on it because that's not as bad. That doesn't get it. I think it is a total mindset issue. I think Chris Powell thinks there's something about carb loading that's critical. I'm not sure I believe the carb loading is much, but I do believe the mindset piece is critical. So having it, I think, is important. When you move, and then so the other pieces to me of a true indulgence meal that's critical that we teach is you have what you want, but you slow down and you enjoy it and you become mindful. It's not about how much food you can get in your mouth in the shortest period of time. It's about learning to enjoy that food and tasting it and stopping when you're full. Having said that, if you have trigger foods, which you do, that may not be something you want to have. That may be something you really, really want to limit. But in general, I think it is good to kind of have an indulgence meal. Now, when you get to weight loss maintenance, you can't be in weight loss forever. You're in weight loss for a period of time, and then you're going to maintain. And when you get in weight loss maintenance, remember from kind of prior discussions, we believe they're very different, and you use different strategies in them. And you got that activity high, you can have more indulgences, just like she's doing. You can pick several times. As long as you're weighing yourself and you're keeping your activity high, and you know what to do the minute that scale goes up. So Tarita has a take action weight, and she knows if she ever sees that number on the scale, that's the safety net. She goes back into weight loss mode. So we never get too far ahead. But I do think that indulgence meal is important from a mindset. I'm not sure, it might be, but I'm not sure it's important from physiologically. I don't have as much good data to say about that. But I do think from a mindset and how people, you're never more than 7 days away from any food. Or even later, you're never more than 2 or 3 days away from any food that you really want to have. And so you get out of that victim mentality, poor me, to I'm empowered, this is what I get to do.
And is that victim mentality what leads to the overindulgence, sort of like losing control when you're...
I don't know if it leads to the overindulgence, but it definitely leads to I'm not in control, right? I'm not, this happened, I don't control what happens to me, which is what is the problem to begin with. When you believe you can make changes, then you will.
Right, and it's a place of weakness rather than strength.
Yes,
So you're...
yes. Yes.
What's a trigger food?
Well, for some people, a trigger food is once they start eating it, they really cannot stop. Or it may trigger them to crave it kind of...
It's kind of like an alcohol to an alcohol.
Basically, yeah.
Right.
It has similarities to that. For me, I've always said chips are my trigger food. So I cannot keep chips in the house. It's just...
Which is not to say that you never have...
Not that I never have them, but I'm not going to have them on a regular basis because...
So it wouldn't be
I
one of
just
your
know.
indulgences?
Not usually. I'm not going to say I never have them, but I'm aware of what happens when I have chips, and I'm going to try to kind of avoid that. But to be honest with you, I don't think there's that many trigger foods for people. It's not like I think you're going to eliminate, all the foods as a trigger food. It's just something that, for whatever reason, something makes you can't stop. For me, it's a whole bag of chips. I will eat until the chips are gone. It could be a little bag, it can be a big bag, it could be 3 bags. I don't know. I don't know what it is exactly, but it's not good, so we just avoid that.
Yeah.
But I still get to have things I want. It's just maybe not chips.
For me, I just want to touch on that really quick. The trigger foods stemmed from emotional stress. I'm an emotional eater, and so whether I was happy or sad, I always had my go-to. So for me, it's ice cream. And yes, so now I've discovered that I can't wipe it out completely, because when I go back to it, then I'll want to binge. But when I do have it, I'll go out and purchase a frozen yogurt. I won't keep it in the house, because there's no way I could have maintenance or I'd be working out 8 hours a day, and it's too much. So, but for me, it triggered emotional stress. So.
To the physical activity piece of it, so you were saying that while you were on this weight loss program, you were working out 4 hours a day. So how did you transition from that to hopefully not doing that now?
I know, I'm still working on it. Well, now I'm used to working out so much, and while I was here at boot camp, I became a Zumba instructor. So that is that's really like a key part to the lifestyle change, is that now I can supplement my income, I can get my exercise in at the same time. And so it doesn't take 4 hours a day anymore, because now I'm in maintenance. But I usually work out about an hour and a half to 2 hours a day. And that's just because I've developed a love of running, and I teach Zumba. So if you put those two together, it's like, boom, there's 2 hours right there. And I still have to get in weights. I want to maintain my muscle mass and shape my body. So it's really, compared to 4 hours, it's not that much, but I understand starting at 0.
You hear something she's saying. So her weight loss, it's become more than just for weight loss, right? Her activity isn't just about her weight anymore. Her activity is about something she loves, that she loved from the very beginning, dancing, but also helps create income, and it's bigger than just trying to maintain her weight. So
Yeah,
it's
trying to
not
get
like,
that time in.
I have to go to the gym for 2 hours so I don't regain weight. It's a little bit about that,
Right.
but I think there's a lot of other things that keep it.
I'm actually hardly at the gym. I usually try to be running out in the terrain and then teach the Zumba, so that I don't feel like it's a little bit daunting and bring back the flashbacks of extreme weight loss for a year. Although I love the process, it was difficult, and at times it was daunting. So just switching it up.
Shows that losing weight is different than maintaining it. So what she did to lose 150 pounds in a year, or in 9 months really, is different than what it will take her to maintain it. Now, she can't go back to doing what she was doing before she lost the weight, or she's absolutely going to regain it. But she does not have to do as much physical activity as she was doing when she was losing, and she doesn't have to eat as perfectly, because she's in maintenance now. She has to do some physical activity, and the 2 hours is what I would suggest to be on the safe side. You might can buy with a little less, but let's not chance it right now. And but it's not the same.
Do you think being a foodie is the same thing as being a food addict?
No.
What's the difference?
I think we want to make people foodies. I think one of the reasons people in Colorado are going to state is because we're foodies. What a foodie is this is what I try to teach in my state sim class. This is what I'm talking about the kind of the transformation. There's so many aspects of it. Is to make them become a foodie. A foodie is someone who enjoys their food and won't eat things that they don't want. In other words, if it's not the best chocolate or the best piece of fish, whatever, they won't eat it. They become very specific and they enjoy their food. Versus to me, a food addict eats as much as they want quickly. They don't necessarily enjoy it. I think becoming a foodie is a positive, what you want to transform someone to, versus a food addict is what you want to try to avoid. I keep avoiding you. You're next. Go to that one. Sorry, Chris.
What did your workout routine consist of while you were losing the weight?
Everything, really. We did interval training, circuit training, pool workouts. We did CrossFit. We did weight training. we did running, we did machines, we did outside activities, cardio fun time. So just staying active sometimes after our bodies are so exhausted, like playing kickball or rather than going back to the apartment and laying on the couch. So we basically did and tried everything just so that we didn't get bored and allowed our bodies muscle confusion as well.
So there was not a percentage of cardio and strength training that you did. It was just a combination of both.
Yep. Yeah, we did everything, including yoga. I forgot yoga.
So Charita, talk about how that felt. Did you love it right from day one? And how did that change over time?
Oh, we're going to get real, Dr. Hill.
We're going to get real. It didn't feel good at first, did it?
No, it didn't. There are certain things that I did not particularly care for, but...
What were the things you didn't like?
Oh, you guys want to know? I did not care for yoga, and I still don't care for yoga, but I do it more often because I understand the benefits to my body. I absolutely did not care for CrossFit, and I don't do CrossFit anymore. I had to draw the line somewhere. But with those particular exercises, I was dealing with an active injury in my knee, and so it brought extra stress to my body. So without being a victim,
You like.
yes.
And there's other people who absolutely would hate Zumba.
Yeah, there is. There's people who feel like they're not coordinated and they can't move or, So to each his own, but those are my particulars.
Go for
I actually have two questions. Dr. Wyatt was talking about the importance of sort of the why. It has to be about more than wanting to lose weight. There has to be some other sort of bigger thing that it's connected to. What was it for you, and how is that process? Like, how did you get there of knowing what that was for you?
Sure.
And then the second part, is I just wanted to mention, you said that now you have support and accountability for the maintenance. And where does that come from?
Okay. Yeah. So the first thing, my why, it might sound a little cliche because I'm a mom and I have kids. And they say, I want to do this for my family. I really want to do it for me because I grew up in a great home, active child. I love dancing. I was a cheerleader. And I always foresaw that when I had children, I was going to be this awesome soccer mom who ran with her kids and spent time with them. And while I still did some of those things, it wasn't to the best of my ability, and I knew that. And so I was plagued with a lot of guilt and regret. So I really wanted to change for me because I had certain expectations for myself for the life that I knew that I always wanted. But stemming past that, I had family that I felt like I was accountable to. And not just my kids and my husband, but my sisters and my parents. And my family had always looked to me kind of as an example. And so I felt like I'm going to be able to do this. I'm going to be able to change my life. And then I'll be able to pay it forward, which is, doing the things I want to do with my kids, being the wife that I feel my husband always deserved, being the daughter that, I felt like my parents loved, even though they loved me all the way along. When you're plagued with guilt and regret and depression, you kind of close yourself off to those things. So my why was absolutely for me, and then it extended out to my friends and family, especially my kiddos. The second part of that, what was the question again?
Where does support and accountability come from now?
Oh yeah, I got great people like Dr. Holly. The support and accountability just came from me being vulnerable and saying, guys, this is what I'm doing and I need your help. Now, there were strategic people that I reached out to because I didn't just want to tell 200 people. And then I got people like all the time, constantly like, what are you doing? Are you working out? What are you eating right now? Where are you at? Are you at the gym? Are you, checking my Facebook or texting me? Or that would have been too overwhelming because I had lived my life in isolation for so many years that even though I was ready to put it out to change, I wasn't ready for the world to know. So strategically, I chose people that I know were going to hold me accountable, who are going to be firm, but loving. And
So what are you doing now? So that's kind of what you did. What's your plan now to make sure you don't regain it?
Well, now I have a new carb cycling program. I still carb cycle, I guess, per se, but not to the extreme that I was on the weight loss plan.
That's what you're going to do, but what's your accountability? How are you going to make sure that happens?
Oh gosh. Well, okay, so I still have the same accountability partners. Now I've included my teenager. I'm not sure that was a good idea because we live together and he's constantly like, what are you doing? Where are you at? What are you eating? How many calories is that? But that's what I need in my life. I absolutely need accountability in my life. So what I'm doing is still just the same thing I was doing before. I still get up and exercise. I still prep my food for the week. I still portion out my food. I talk with my accountability partner 1 week. I've been in and out of contact with Dr. Holly, just with whatever we're doing, but she's always a text away. And I have my son.
You mentioned some cultural foods that you had to give up. Has that been difficult for you when you get together with a family?
Yeah, absolutely, it has. I haven't given them up, but now I'm learning that I don't have to have them every time. I have 12 nieces and nephews, including my children, and so we have like 2 birthdays a month. And that was definitely a hard thing for me once extreme weight loss ended and moving into maintenance so quickly and trying to work on this and this. I discovered that I can't cut out all that stuff that I grew up eating and loving, but it's just a matter of choosing. So now sometimes I might have mac and cheese and I don't have ice cream, for my treat. So I'm not cutting everything out. I'm just choosing when I'm going to have it.
So I'm going to hit a couple things and then we can keep asking questions kind of as we go, because I think the why question was really good along with that accountability question, and I think that's one of the kind of key things in a transformation is getting at that why and doing something we call peel the onion, and getting at really a deeper why. And I don't know how many of you saw Tarita's episode, but on Tarita's episode there was another person, Ty, who did not make it to the end. So Tarita made it to the end and hit her goals, and Ty did not. And when I look at that, it really did come down to a deeper why. Tarita had worked on her why, and yes, she was doing it for herself, but actually when you peeled the onion deeper, it was because it was important to you to be a role model. It was important of you to be a certain type of mother for your children. It was for you, but that was important, and that was very solid. For the other person, the why was a lot more superficial. It was about getting a baseball contract, and it was about being, famous, and from that. And when that went away, the whole thing crumbled. So the why is absolutely critical. The why, getting at a deeper why, is why someone gets up at 5 a.m. in the morning. If you can tie this new lifestyle to why you're doing it, and then even to your purpose, then that gets you up at 5 a.m. That keeps you going when you want to stop. It makes it bigger than the weight loss. And to me, that's one of the key, and we spend so much time on it, is figuring out why do you really want to do it. And we call peeling the onion. And peeling the onion is where you take out the first layer and you keep going deeper. So people will say, I want to do it because I want to be healthier. Okay, that sounds good. Why do you want to be healthier? Here comes the next layer. Well, I don't want to die early. Okay. Why do you not want to die young or early? Well, because I want to be around to see my kids grow up. Oh, well, why is that important to you? Because it's important for me to be a good dad. It's important that I'm able to help them, and I want to be this way now. And now you're starting to get to the deeper why of what's important. It's not that first thing. It's really that deeper why. It usually involves a feeling, a way you want to feel, something that you hold really, really close to you, something that you want put on your gravestone. If you ask people, when you die, what do you want written on your gravestone about you? If you can tie your new lifestyle to that, because that's something that's internal and important, you're going to be far more successful at keeping it going. And that is absolutely, I think, a key to the transformation piece of it. And a big difference, because people don't work on that enough. And I actually wish I had worked with Ty more on trying to understand, get him to understand. He was 20 years old. That's part of it. But him to understand about really why having that baseball contract was important. So when that baseball contract went away, he had no reason to continue down a path that was difficult, right? That was hard. He had no reason to want to do it. Versus Trita's was much deeper and more solid, and she could get her through the rough patches, which absolutely there will be some of. The other piece that we talk a lot about is, and I think in a transformation, is getting out of your comfort zone. The first day of class, I say, if you're not ready to get out of your comfort zone, then you're not ready to lose weight. That you really can't be successful if you're going to just stay in the bubble that you're used to. Because this bubble that you're used to in terms of doing what you're doing has produced the weight that you're at. And if you want to change that weight, you've got to change what you're doing, and it's going to mean getting vulnerable, which is uncomfortable. It's going to mean doing things that you don't want to do and experiencing and trying them. Trying Zumba, trying CrossFit.
Yoga.
It's going to be doing that. It's going to be eating a new way. It's going to be thinking about things differently. It's going to be uncomfortable. But when you get out of there and you start living outside of your comfort zone, that's when true transformation really begins. That's when you start thinking of things differently. That's when you start living life. We also say you have to live in the arena. Teresa before this, I think, was living on the sidelines, watching. Now she's actually living. And when you're in there living, yes, you get beat up and bloodied, and you know, there's that famous quote from Theodore Roosevelt, you experience negatives, but you also experience such positives. And that's really where you live, is in the arena, and that's being vulnerable, it's getting out of your comfort zone, it's doing things that you normally wouldn't do. So that's another big piece.
When we talk about mindset, I'm curious if there's any data on meditation and weight loss or meditation and weight maintenance?
So, data, I mean, yes, so there's some, I mean, that's the direction I think we're moving, in the sense that that's part of the mindset piece, and that's part of trying to incorporate that to really get to think about these things and not just always be living in the past and the future and being in the moment and all of those things. They've definitely tried to put some of the yoga and the mindfulness in there. I don't think it alone does it, but it's definitely part of it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
With these experiences, do you think that most weight loss also needs, people who need weight loss also need therapy, really?
Is that part of
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I think some people maybe need more therapy than others. And we have, our therapy is more at, not so much getting at all the things that have happened to you in the past and dealing with them, as much as what do you do about it now? How do you take this situation and deal with it now? Not so much, once again, dwelling and being a victim. Having said that, I'm sure there are certain people who really probably need that. So I'm not saying across the board. But I'm saying in general, I don't think that the majority of our population necessarily needs therapy in a traditional sense of therapy. Behavioral change and dealing with the mindset, yes. But maybe not the traditional type of therapy that I think people think of when they say the word.
I want to ask, how did your husband respond to your weight loss? And also, are other members of your family obese? And how did they respond?
Sure.
And were they all the same, or were there, like,
My husband was ecstatic. I was smaller when we met years back. And so, not that he remembered how I was, but it was definitely nice and refreshing. But he was basically the mom and the dad while I was going through the process. And that was super hard for him and for myself, having to relinquish that control that I had placed over my household, being that mom and taking care of everything, and him having to come out of that father, traditional father, providing for the family role, and now nurturing and providing and cooking and cleaning. But, I mean, it's absolutely been amazing for our marriage, because now it's like, you know how to wash, and pretty good. So when I need some help, I know where to go to. It's definitely opened up the lines of communication, because, there's rough times where I'm going through, not in a traditional sense of therapy, but while I'm, working through a lot of things that I had kind of, held in and, stuffed down and just allowed to fester and grow into something really rotten. Those things start to come out, and they start to expose themselves when you come out of your comfort zone, and when you not only decide to make change, but are changing. And so it was difficult for him, but it's been the best thing that's happened to us. I do not have obese family members. I grew up quite active in my family, and so everyone was completely on board. My mom, when I went home, she's the one who was training me to run, because my mom's been a runner for years. And so it really brought a lot of my relationships with my family closer and deeper, because they've come alongside and just really been supportive and made healthy changes, things that they weren't even aware of, even though they're in a healthier state than I was.
I was just curious, you know, you had the support of the program and you still have your support, you know, in your team and all that, but is there like a particular mantra that you keep, and this is sort of related to meditation, but is there sort of an internal message or a mantra that is your motivator that you go back to?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's my faith. And one of my many jobs, I'm a worship leader. And so I love music and I love words and just kind of meditating on that. And so it is absolutely meditation, and everyone has different forms of it, but it's my faith that speaks to me, and that keeps me going in the dark times, where I feel like I need to, you know, pull from within.
But a specific message? I mean, is it because, you know, sometimes you'll tell yourself something, whatever it is in that morning, or...
You know, my message all year long has just been to fight. And sometimes, I guess that's just what I've always said. I feel like I've always been a passionate person, and I've always had drive, but just not willing to work towards the things that I really desired. And so my message to me this year was to fight. Not just be surviving, not just, you know, existing, but to really fight, to really step out and make a change, fight for the things I want. So, yeah, that's my message.
I think the spirituality piece, though, is part of a transformation, and something we saw in the National Weight Control Registry, and something I see continually kind of in the groups for Stay to Slim. And spirituality isn't necessarily religion, but it is kind of that belief in something more, and purpose, and a meaning to things, I think. And so I definitely believe that's part of the transformation process. I always say that as a scientist, I always said, you know, if I see it, I'll believe it, show me the data. But I now actually also believe that if I believe it, I will see it. That there definitely is power to the thoughts you think, what you believe in, and the facts that you will believe that you're going to succeed. And so one of the things we teach is to expect success. And, you know, instead of when my patients first come in, they're always telling me, well, what if it doesn't work? It hasn't worked before. I'm scared it's not going to work. They put all this energy and effort into, what if it doesn't work? I don't think it's going to work. What if I stop losing weight? They'll even be losing weight. What if it stops? I think it's going to stop. What if I regain it? And I'm just, you know, I listen to that, and then I say, what if it doesn't? What if you succeed? And that shift, believe it or not, makes a huge difference. Putting all this energy into what's not going to work versus believing and putting energy into what you can do makes a huge difference in your success.
What do you do to reach out to communities that need the most help? Because a lot of these programs are not being used by the people who need it the most. Sometimes they don't even know about it, or they think it's going to cost too much, or they don't have the time. So what type of community outreach are you doing, and are you doing some of that too? I mean, if starting with, you know, the letter that got you involved in all of this, but I'm sure people are asking in the community, well, how do I get involved? How do I get in on this? You know, so
before you tell them what you're doing, that's also the key point of this transformation. It's a vicious circle. I tell people it's be inspired, and you know, it inspires you. It's a vicious circle between inspired and be inspired, right? And the more you reach out and help other people, the more really you're helping yourself. Mm-hmm. And so a big piece of this is paying it forward, or spreading it forward and doing. And that's, to me, the amazing piece that I've seen. And that's something about transformation that does it. Because I didn't see that in my other programs. I only see it in this transformation, this kind of idea of a transformation, changing your life program, where people want to do this and want to go out and share it and to spread it and it just kind of moves on its own. And that is a really amazing thing. And I think it's because you want to share it, and then when you share it, it just comes back to you. So I'll let you see what you're kind of doing, but we're actually doing, you know, that's our goal here, is to actually develop programs that we can use for all different kind of levels. And even with the show, we're offering scholarship to come here for at least one person, with the idea that we can get lots of people going out and sharing it and providing a platform where they can actually come to get resources too when they start groups in different areas where we're not involved necessarily. Sorry.
Oh, no, absolutely. So I have 3 boys, the 6, 8, and 13. And so I'm really passionate about kids and really bringing it back to families and school. And so what I'm actually doing this next fall is I'm starting Zumba for Kids, an after-school program at my kids' classical academy. And I've been receiving a lot of feedback on that. And basically what I'm finding is that transformation is contagious. Like, people just want to be involved. People want to make change. People want to better themselves always. And there's always something that we all can do to better ourselves. It doesn't have to always just be weight loss. And so when I came home, I just made myself available to people, to my church, to my friends and kids. And I mean, the response has just been overwhelming. So I'm definitely starting with Zumba for Kids. We also started another program, Zumba for Believers. And that's just for anyone who wants maybe a little more modest moves and music with an uplifting message. It's just really positive. And so that's actually debuting this weekend. We're really excited about that. But as far as paying it forward, it started with the family and the church and my friends. And that's what I've been doing. So I work out with all my friends, like got a hike going on, a group hike going on Wednesday. It's nothing that's really organized at this point. I'm just making myself available because everything that I've been given has blessed me. And I'd be crazy to not share everything that I've learned. And in turn, it is blessing me. It's helping keep me accountable. It's giving me like motivation and inspiration to keep going. And it warms my heart. So
That's actually one of the assignments in the groups is, what are you going to do to pay it forward and stay accountable? And really one way to stay accountable is to pay it forward, right? That's what happens. When you're out there doing something, it's harder to talk about working out, and if you're not working out, you're more likely to do it. So I think that's actually one of the keys, is that whole pay it forward, accountability, spread it to others. And when you come out of it and you have that positive mindset, it is infectious. I mean, we talk about the social environment, right? And in State of Slim, we talk about increasing that social environment that's going to support their new behaviors. And so I would say there's people that support your behaviors. You want to increase those people. You want to increase the time with those people. There's people who don't support your behaviors. You want to minimize your time with those people, minimize the people on that list if possible. And I always kind of say there's this other list of people that don't necessarily support your behaviors, meaning they do behaviors that are kind of pushing against what you want to do, or maybe they're actively working against you, but you can't do anything about it, right? Your boss, family members, the person sitting next to you on the bus necessarily, right? You maybe can't do anything about it. So we kind of work on all 3 of those. But the idea is when you hang around the people that are doing what you want to make part of your lifestyle, when you hang around the people that are eating the way you want to eat and move and think the way you want to think, you're more likely to do it. If you hang around someone, if your kid is hanging around someone who's smoking, you're worried they're going to start smoking. Well, it works the other direction too. It works in the positive direction. So surrounding yourself, and that's really what you're doing by paying it forward. In a sense, you start surrounding yourself by people that are doing it. And
is transformation scalable?
Now, that's what we're trying to do. So I would ask this group that. That's really what we're trying to do. And so we've really tried to take State of Slim in these small groups that I don't think are scalable. I know work. I mean, and what I've seen come out of the small groups, like I said, is not anything like I've ever seen before in terms of how the people end, and not just their weight loss, but their mindset and what they go out and do. But how do we take a small group and touch more people? And so we've started trying to do that. We are doing challenges where we take 300 people at a time. Part of that is maybe to seed them with some people who have already succeeded, but we also kind of try to do a large group. We're also talking about virtual groups, so taking people from wherever they live in the country, being able to put them together in a small group online to go through the same process. Will it be as good? That's what I don't know. That's what we have to try to figure out. But I'm 100% convinced the idea of transformation is what we need. I think that's the biggest hope we have to really changing the way our society sees things. I think these kind of guidelines and these little tweaks, I just don't think are going to move the needle. I think we need something big. And I think this idea of transformation and how you change your whole life and your whole mindset is the thing that could potentially start to move the country in a large way. So I'd love to hear your opinions on that, because that's a big idea. That's a hard thing.
Well, one thing I'm interested about is when you talk about Colorado being considered one of the fittest, you have this rapidly growing community of Hispanics. I think it's like 30, almost 40% of the population is Hispanic in the state, but they're not the fittest. So I'm curious to know, and I would love to find out more about what are some of the things that you're doing to reach out to this growing community that could certainly use, some of the things that you're working on.
Well, it's funny how things happen. I'm one of my one-on-one clients that I took through State of Slim. I do some clients one-on-one, and then we started the small groups, and now I'm trying the bigger groups and the bigger thing. Actually is very involved in the Hispanic population, has a foundation, works on voting rights for the Hispanics, and they very much are looking to help bring this out to that group. I think once again, you've got to find people that can bring it out and get it started. And once you get it started, I think it can take a hold. I mean, yes, there's cultural things you have to take into consideration, but the concept of transformation works for everybody. This bigger concept works. You may have to find small tweaks about certain things, but the idea works. So it's I think finding the right people to take it out there and do that. And we have some other groups we've been working with too, but that is something that we is on our radar screen. We're trying to make it happen. It really is how you spread this. I mean, it spreads, but also getting it going, helping it spread. I guess seeding it almost.
I mean, that's exactly what you talked about. You talked about how this defeats the negative. I mean, we've learned the bad behavior and the bad food eating patterns over these years. Let's say, particularly the last 50 years. So it's taking that back and just putting it on its head. But
yeah, but how do you do that? How do you turn that ship?
Right.
I mean, that's what I feel like. I feel like this. We're going down this path and we're doing these little things that can't turn the ship, and it's just not turning. It's just not turning. And like I said, the guidelines basically are no different. Nothing. And maybe we're going to get some more medications, and maybe more people will get surgery. I don't know. But wow, this whole idea of having no control over this is that the direction we really want to go. When absolutely, I think we can control it. And I know there's biology involved, and I've studied biology for years for this. And but I think you can do things to minimize that biology. The physical activity, I think, is minimizing that biology, setting you up to be as successful as you can. And then I think from these other things, you can absolutely change the behaviors. It's just about getting the ship turned and how we do that.
So I'm intrigued by this idea of larger groups, virtual groups, and I'm curious if you have any specifics about starting a group. Is there a virtual group started? How would people find out about it and get involved in it?
Yeah, so we have developed kind of a platform that's an app along with a community platform that we can divide in different ways, I guess. We're going to have a big public community, but we're also going to be able to take smaller groups. I think there's something about being in a group that is critical. The small groups, I do transformations one-on-one, and they're pretty good, but the transformation in the groups of 15 to 20 people are unbelievable. The way the group, if you get that group going right, helps each other and lifts everybody up. We just had, one of my groups just finished, and one of the people was really the most living on the sidelines and not in participating. We had our talk about living in the arena and being vulnerable, and on her way home she called one of the DJs on Mix 100 and she said, I want to climb the incline in Manitou Springs. I'm going to climb the incline. Will you climb it with me? And lo and behold, he said yes, which I was like, what? Okay. We just, last weekend, we all climbed it with Charita. And, kind of, empowering. So these groups, and the reason, and I guess my point was, the reason she did it was the group gave her that support that she did it. And then when she came back and she told the whole group then went crazy with doing things that was outside their comfort zone and trying things. Like, she was the one that I would have thought wouldn't have done it. She did it, and then when she did it, it was amazing what actually happened in that group. And that group just transformed amazingly. And it's all coming out, and what they're doing is just like amazing. So those small groups, the key is, can I recreate that? So we did a challenge on campus for 300 people. So that was a larger group. We have the same kind of platform where I can put things out there in terms of their homework and these assignments. You know, it's not quite as good as I think that in person, because what I do is I make them do some stuff, right? It's what they need. I make them do what they need to some degree, and as they go through it, it comes out. They come out the other side a different person. But sometimes you got to kind of force that in. So we're working on some other ways to kind of seed that. So now it may be that you do some small groups that go in and seed the bigger group that can actually act as leaders to try to force that transformation using still that virtual community.
And they can communicate with each other
Yes.
as well.
Mm-hmm. And they post their homeworks and pictures and things like that. Because it really is an experiential process. And it's not just learning, it's experiencing things and kind of forcing, just like homework. Kids don't want to do homework, but there's purpose for it. It's almost the same thing. It's almost learning of these things again. Then the next thing is to try to take people from all over the country that come together and put them in groups of 15 or 20 virtual groups, but still where they feel that accountability of the group. How is that going to work? Not as clear, but I think it's better than just one big group. I don't think that is personal enough.
What if your work in doing all of this, if you've gone through sort of a transformation yourself?
Yeah.
Can you say anything about that?
You know, I definitely, like I said, this was a big one. I was totally not really into this mindset piece of things, the power of positivity, the spirituality of it, believing. I was a scientist. It was like, show me the data and I believe it. It's not, you know, I can explain everything. There's no, you know, didn't faith or, you know, what you talked about wasn't there. And but kind of through this process and some things that have happened to me, I absolutely think things have happened for a reason. And I absolutely believe now that that's a critical piece of things. We may not understand it completely, especially the power of the mind and how it works completely. It's hard to measure, so we don't like to talk about things we can't measure and understand 100%. But I absolutely think it's critical, and and part of my transformation absolutely has kind of led to this. I tell the story, and I'm going to go ahead and tell it. You're going to probably think I'm crazy, but what the heck. I'll be vulnerable. So when my passion is no doubt to do this, is to help people lose weight and transform their lives. It's just something I was meant to do. It's just something that wakes me up in the morning. I can spend all my time on it, and it's a good thing. You know, I want to. Why, I don't know, but it's true. And when I've been blessed to hook up with Dr. Jim Hill early in my career, and you know, we got to design this building, and the whole idea was we were going to transform in weight loss and health and wellness in this building where everything was going to come together. And I told Jim early, I said, I'm going to have to get the word out. What we need is we need a book, and we need a reality TV show. And Jim, did I not say this? I swear. And Jim's like, well, you know, maybe the book, I don't know. The reality. I said, well, there's 2 reality TV shows out there. I'm like, there's The Biggest Loser and Extreme Weight. And this is what The Biggest Loser and Extreme. We're going to have to come up with a different angle. So be thinking how we're gonna pitch this. We're going to have to pitch a different angle for our center to get. We'll have to get on the 3rd network. I said, you know, we'll have to get on a different network. And I said, but we don't have it yet. So wait, because we're going to get it. We don't have it yet. Well, it wasn't very long after that Rodell, our publisher, actually contacted me. So our idea was for the book already that we wanted to write was Colorado being the leanest state, how we were going to take those learnings and put it into a program. We already had that concept and idea. Rodell called me and said, do you want to write a book? And I said, well, yeah, but I have my topic. Their topic was the same topic. Why is Colorado the leanest state? Can you write a Colorado diet? They had written South Beach. They wanted a Colorado diet. So that lined up, and then it wasn't much later. It was around Christmas time. It was actually the day after Christmas, and one of the producers from Extreme Weight Loss was visiting his mother, who lives in Denver, and she had found us on the web, and she really wanted her son to move to Denver. And he said, I think you gotta go look at this place, and you should move your show here. And she was like, well, right. But he looked online and he's like, wow, this is a pretty cool place. So he just called the regular number, got the regular number downstairs, and it just so happens that our business person answered that number for some reason, took it off because it was holidays. It was the day after Christmas. And he called me and said, well, hi, I don't know, there's this message about extreme weight loss. Would you even think that would be good? I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely. The rest is history. So I do believe things kind of line up for a reason, and I do believe that this was meant to happen, and that definitely inspires me to, stay the course and keep pushing. So now you think I'm crazy, but it really is true. You didn't back me up on that at all.
It actually talks to the universe.
I do. I'm like, if you see my office,
you should win the lottery.
if it says it, it says it's all happening perfectly. So that's one of my mantras that's painted actually on my office wall. Come by and see it.
Do you incorporate? I would imagine that you do in your curriculum when you're teaching. And do you talk to other colleagues in other medical schools around the country about, getting this type of mindset into the curriculum of people that are studying to be doctors and scientists, so that it's not just about show me the numbers kind of thing?
I haven't done that as much. We've definitely been big on educating about obesity. I mean, I ran CORE, which is Centers for Obesity Research and Education, for many, many years, which was simply the goal was to educate clinicians about what to do about obesity. That's been big enough to get obesity and weight loss into that curriculum, period, has been a movement in itself. And I think this would be the next phase.
Yeah, most medical schools don't even teach obesity. Right. It's probably the number one thing that docs see in real life, and only a handful of medical students teach anything about it. So what you're talking about is a real leap from there. We're not even teaching them about obesity and the problems of obesity. Do we need to do that? Absolutely. So our strategy is to lead by example here. So we're trying to do it with our own medical school to start with, to show how it can work, and then hopefully others will see that and emulate it.
So I just told you something that I may be crazy, or that I'm not quite ready to go out and tell all my colleagues that yet. So
okay.
No, but I think the idea of mindset being involved, and you're seeing more and more, right? Mindfulness, meditation, that type thing is coming a little bit more mainstream. But I don't think we're educating really about that yet.
Have you seen more success in women or men?
That's a good question. I might let John Peters do that. But I think part of why I see more women, because women tend to do groups more than men. And so I don't think that means that women are better at transformation or better at this process necessarily than men. I think it's part of how we've designed it to this point. But I think there's a way to design it to encourage men to go through it too. Anybody want to add anything?
Yeah, John, you might want to talk about some of the work you're doing.
Yeah, so some years ago, I was looking at this problem and was noticing that for most of these programs, women are the people that show up. You look at the numbers and it's 80% women. Across the board, Weight Watchers, doesn't matter what it is, it's 80% women. And there's some sensibility that women are much more concerned about health and healthcare than men are in general, just off the top of their head. But part of that is that we don't talk to men in a way that is most relevant to men. Men, first and foremost, are about the mission. And basically, take the hill, do this, do that. They don't like to sit around and talk about stuff. So they're not going to get in there and share their feelings and all that. They want to know what's the mission, what I got to do. And yes, they do have community, but it's a whole different type of community among men than it is among women. So we're actually testing a program that's called Man Up. And it's
basically a bunch of journalists.
Well, it's designed to change the whole lexicon about weight management, to try to get more men to play. And so far, it's been terrific. It's all sports analogies. Okay? So everything about it is about sports analogies. You know, you're on a team, and you know the community is a locker room, and you know and men really like that because you can say stuff because of that context that they would never think of saying in a room full of women. Not that men can't succeed in a room full of women. Sometimes they're there because they want to look good for women. But at the end of the day, I think we're testing some ideas to say how do we get more engagement among men, because they have just as big a problem with obesity as women do, just that they far fewer of them seek help.
If I could touch on that, because in our group we were, I guess, split like halfway, half and half men, half women, and I absolutely see the dynamic of that in the men in our group. They're not emotional. Now, over the year, we've caused them to be because we're women and we're like, tell us what's wrong. We want to know. We want to help. But it's brought a fantastic dynamic to our group because we're like a family. And the men are the ones who say, hey, girl, suck it up. Wipe the tears. This is our mission. Let's get it done. And then on the women's side of it, where we're more emotional and the guys hit a roadblock and they're just like, oh, I'm not going to get through this mission. That's when the women step in and they give the encouraging speech. And it's like, we've come too far for this. We've endured this. We've gone through this. And it's time to reach and, you know, pull out the inspiration and press forward. And so it's definitely caused the women in our group to become a little more aggressive and to really go forward and accomplish the mission. But it's really allowed the men to find out a lot about themselves and expose and be vulnerable amongst the men, not necessarily us, but amongst the men, and it's created a community in that effect.
Yeah, and I've seen the same thing in our small groups. The men who do come in, it's what kind of their amazing transformation is. It's just you can't get them there. Once again, what they need versus what they want, and it's very hard to get them into the group. Extreme managed because of the potential
right.
of what you were getting, but in our groups it's about 80-20.
What you guys may not know is these folks spent 3 months, the first 3 months here at our center. So they were in a group of about 15 of you? So they were all here together for 90 days. Can you talk a little about, and this was the first season Extreme did it that way. Previously everybody did it on their own at home, but now we're doing what we call boot camp, which is 3 months of being together and getting started. So Tarita, talk a little bit about how you felt that whole thing worked.
Sure. Real quickly, it was a little nerve-wracking because we all came from our own environments and we were all exposed to each other, and it was a moment of being vulnerable with each other. But what we learned very early on is that we're all like-minded people. We were all there for the same purpose. And even though we might not have chosen everyone that came into the group, you love them like family. You know, you got the crazy ones and the emotional ones, and, you know, and you start to, you know, see who's the coaches and who needs the most encouragement and that type of thing. But it's a family dynamic. And being here for 90 days kind of forced us to learn about each other, but more importantly, learn about ourselves and how we can reach out, even in a state where we felt like we didn't have anything to give. We had so much to give to each other and what they had to give to us in return.
So what's important for you to listen to? What has she not talked about? What if you had to pull out of her when she's no? And this is good though. When she is freely speaking, what does she not talk about?
What she ate.
What she ate, and even her activity. How many minutes? I mean, you pulled some of that out of her. She didn't talk about that. She talks about the group. She talks about the experience. She talks about how she felt. She talks about the mindset. That's the piece that's been missing, and that's why I think that's the big piece of what we need to figure out how to include. It's not that the diet wasn't important. It was. It's not that the physical activity is not important. It's just not the missing ingredient that really gets it going and makes it long term. I think the diet could be a numerous things. It can be the Stay Slim diet, the Colorado diet. It could be Chris's diet. I think there's other diets that can go in there. That's not the critical piece. We know about how much physical activity someone needs to do. Ultimately, they can do more when they're losing weight, but ultimately they probably need to do 70 to 90 minutes a day to maintain. And you can figure out the best way to do that. What the missing piece is what she's talking about. That's what she remembers when you ask her a question. So, sorry, I just had to point that out.
I'm glad it was
Any
good.
motivational speaking now?
No. I mean, I'm not closed off to it, but I feel like just making myself available and being able to share everything that I've learned and pay it forward, that's whatever that looks like. If that means 2,000 people at my church or my family on a Friday night, that's what it is.
And as you can see, Sharita is close by, so we use her.
And I'm thankful.
And to pay it forward. So she's been very giving of her time.
Yeah, yes.
Helps keep me accountable.
Yes.
I love
do
it.
you teach Zumba here?
Not here. I have taught a couple classes here in the center.
You're going to, though.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
All right.
But I am definitely at the studio in Colorado Springs.
Well, on behalf of the National Press Foundation, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for being here,
Thank
for
you.
sharing